years of your life will come when you start to figure out that your problems are your own. They weren't created by your mother or your father or whoever the president is or the economy or how people treat you. Yes, you should be treated fairly, but you are the creation of your emotions. Emotions do not come from other people. Emotions come because of your thought. You have to make those thoughts rational. If they're irrational, they're not based on evidence. Now, irrational doesn't mean dumb or stupid or made up. It means you're not thinking in a manner in which you can prove. How many times a day do we have to hear people whine about things? How many times a day do we have to hear people talk about how terrible the world is and how it affects them and how it keeps them down? You are in charge of your thoughts, and your thoughts create your emotions. Get it through your thick skull already. You got to quit blaming it on other people. About a week ago, I went to my social media because I have great conversations there. I don't necessarily enjoy scrolling through social media myself, as I kind of feel like Facebook and Instagram are the pit of society these days, and people say things to you that they wouldn't be man enough to say to your face, despite I give those people my address and they don't show up anyway. But I go on there and I realize that my accounts have been disabled. My personal and professional accounts for my brick and mortar office of therapy, as well as my Angry Viking Mindset Method online program, and my personal stuff has all been disabled. And all it will tell you is that there's a violation of community guidelines. But of course, they're not smart enough to actually tell you which of the guidelines that you violated. They just send you a list and say, somewhere in here, we think you violated one of these, but we really can't tell you. So, and a majority of those things come from, and I know because I do speak out about the mental health of public safety and military, and that your problems are your own. If you don't like that, you've probably already canceled out of this video, and that's fine. But when you tell people that they have to be responsible for their own things, you stand up for groups of people who are marginalized these days, despite the hard work and sacrifices that they make, you don't fit the narrative. So people start getting on there and claiming that you're hate speech because you hurt their little feelings. Well, the problem is, if one person does that, I guess somebody at Instagram has a small amount or a small percentage of a brain cell left, and they can see there's no hate speech here. They've never threatened anybody. This isn't a problem. But if you and 100 of your whiny ass friends do it, you get caught up in the algorithm. It's happened to me before. If these come back, it'll happen to me again. People don't actually have the guts to say anything to people. They just like to push crybaby buttons all the time. So that's what the world has come to. So it got disabled. And I could have gone a lot of different ways with this. And to be perfectly fair, I wanted to be kind of pissed off at first. Not because I give a crap about social media, but because those social media platforms will lead people here. And those social media platforms will lead people to having good conversations. I was having great conversations with people that actually do seek help, and not just the naysayers and whiners that tend to end up in my direct messaging or as as comments on the posts, because God knows that changes people's opinion. Good Lord. Make sure you put it in all caps too and screw up your English. They seem to love to do that. So I could have been really pissed off about this. And there for a moment, I wanted to be. I wanted to be because I hadn't done anything wrong. And I don't think that you should have a punishment for something that you haven't done necessarily wrong. But I don't have any recourse. You put your phone number and email into it, you push the button, and they let you know that they may contact you here in about 30 days or so. So we'll see what happens. There's still plenty of platforms out there, still plenty of people out there that want to get good information, want to get help. So I'm not necessarily concerned about it. But back to wanting to be pissed off. That's my choice. It's my choice if I want to be angry. A healthy negative emotion is still negative, but a healthy negative emotion is things like frustration. Makes a lot of sense that I could be frustrated about that. And those come from the wishes and the wants that we have. I really wish people like Instagram would follow their own rules, but they don't. The problem is, if I turn that wish into a demand and I say they absolutely have to turn it back on and they absolutely cannot do this to me, I'm not frustrated. I'm angry. And here's the problem. Here in the U.S., we like to say, well, anger makes me do something about it. Yeah, maybe. How's the consequences? Go have a fight with your significant other. How's the next 2 hours, even if you were right in the argument? Pretty shitty, right? Karmic debt punishes us in time. We'll never get those 2 hours back. Karmic deck will punish me if I'm pissed off about a stupid piece of software. And yeah, it's a stupid piece of software if you haven't figured it out yet. If you're living your whole life on the thing, you need to get up and look out the window once in a while. It's a great tool for if you're trying to communicate with people or get points across, but let's be honest, if you don't fit the narrative, you're not sticking around very long. So I was pretty frustrated. I wish they hadn't done that. I wish they hadn't stopped the conversations I was having with people. I can't even contact those people to let them know what happened. I just have to hope they see something like this video or have migrated to my Angry Viking Mindset program or have found a different way to message me or come here and left a message. And some of them have. However, that's what I'm frustrated about. I'm frustrated about the fact that they ended those conversations. I'm a little more than frustrated about the fact that they have the power to do these things, that you'll flag your phone and your IP address, that you can't create another one to try to reach out to people. But that's a whole nother video, a whole nother topic someday about how we're all being controlled by that. And I don't mean that in a conspiracy type of way. I mean, that's a shitty thing to do to people. So don't put too much care and too much of your business into social media that can end overnight. Turns out there's still good people out there that want good information, whether they come here or contact me directly. So I wanted to be really pissed off about it because it really doesn't seem fair to me. But I could either be frustrated about it or angry about it. Now, you don't just decide to go from anger to frustration just because you want to, or you're not watching this video. I'll tell you, if you figure out how to just go from anger to frustration because you want to, please hit me up. Let's write a book together. We'll be rich, because you can't do it. You have to change the interpretation of what's going on. You have to change the interpretation to make sure that you're rationally and based on evidence making a decision about what's happened to you or what's going on in your life. So let's go back to Instagram. I wanted to be pissed. However, I can't demand that they not act like this. And I can't demand that they absolutely must give it back. And I can't demand that I not be mistreated. I also can't demand or decide, well, this definitely means that it's all going to fall apart and I can't have it fall apart. I don't know that it's going to fall apart. There's plenty of people out there that still want help. But if you go down that dark hole, you're going to end up in a very dark place if you're trying to run a business or if you're trying to take care of your family when these things happen. I also can't demand or convince other people or myself that I can't possibly handle it if everything goes wrong. That's the problem, is that I can't stand it itis. There's a professional term like low frustration tolerance for it, but I can't stand it itis seems to fit a bunch of whiny people better. If this shuts down, I can't possibly stand it. If I lose money, I can't possibly stand it. If my family leaves, I can't possibly stand it. If I don't get that promotion, I can't possibly stand it, and they have to give me that promotion. Those are irrational and rigid beliefs which you're not going to be able to enforce. Now, I'm not saying that you should be stepped on by people. If there's something I can do about this, then I'll do it. I've reached out to some IT people, and we'll see what happens. But how easy would it be for me to just be pissed off for the last week? And then during the middle of this week, somebody that I consider a pretty influential person in the social media sphere and on YouTube that does a lot of good for people, made his own video about the fact that hundreds and hundreds of pro-military, pro-public safety, pro-law enforcement, and pro-get your head out of your ass sites have all been taken down from Facebook and Instagram with the exact same letter that I got. So it turns out it wasn't just me. Turns out we don't fit the narrative and they don't like it very much, so they call it hate speech and take it away. Now, this is not a new phenomenon, and I'm not reporting anything new that happens in the world. It just happens to happen to me this time, and a lot of the people that try to put good information out there for the military and public safety. Doesn't seem like a big group of people that you should be pissing off like that and keep putting your boot on after the year that it's been, but whatever. I've seen their Better Business Bureau rating. It's not so good. So apparently they don't care. However, it was up to me this week whether I was going to be angry and depressed about it. Because if you're running a business, it can be very easy to go from things are going really well to things are not going so well. Now, things are going okay. If you're interested in the Angry Viking Mindset Method, I highly recommend you sign up now more than ever, because if this stuff's going to keep happening, who knows how we're all going to be treated. You better have the right mindset in place and able to do that. That mindset is creating the system of rational thinking. That mindset is creating the system of thinking things through with evidence. If you go to court, you want the prosecution who's against you to actually have evidence you did something, not just say that you did it and you go to jail. So we have a system set up, especially in our minds, where we know evidence is important. But you won't wait for evidence for yourself. You'll just get pissed because, by God, you're the only one that's getting treated like this, and you can't be treated like this, and you can't possibly handle being treated like this. Come on. Your mindset is the only gateway for you being able to deal with issues. We do not rise to our goals when we face adversity. We fall to the strength of our system. You've got to raise your system. You have to do the daily things that get you in place in order that when adversity comes, like being shut down on social media, like having a business problem, like having a family problem, like drinking, like gambling, any of your vices, like anger, when the adversity hits, we do not rise to our goals. We fall to the strength of our system. You have to better your system. There's no other way. That's why I created the Angry Viking Mindset Method, because I tried all those therapists and all they did was give me a couple of tips to take some breaths and count to 5 and not be mad at people and see it from their way. Listen, folks, I may not be able to see things from other people's way. I can't get my head up my ass sometimes that far to see it the way they do. I don't think that's the point. Now, maybe we should give some grace or liberty to somebody that might be going through something difficult, but I'm not going to see things from your way. I don't think that's the solution. The solution is not to not have the problem. The problem's not the problem. Your interpretation of the problem is the problem. Your interpretation of the event, of the activating event or the stimulus, that's the problem. How are you interpreting what happened to you? Well, thankfully for me, I've spent the last many years bettering my system. I've spent the last many years studying rational motive behavior therapy that I practice and Stoic philosophy and getting to a point where when these things happen, I don't have to fold. I don't like it. I'm not going to be stepped on. Do I look like somebody who's going to be stepped on? No. We're going to overcome this. We're going to pivot and do the next thing. We're going to keep going. But how easy would it be to fall victim of this? How easy would it be to claim to be a victim and wallow around in that victim that Instagram ruined my business? You know you've done it. And you know you've seen people do it every day. There's no victims. Stop being a victim. Victims are people that have been actually victimized by things, crimes and people, and maybe you have. But today, you're not a victim. Stop victimizing yourself. Stop blaming everybody else for your problems. Start interpreting the things that happen to you for what you know they are. This is bullshit, and it's going to remain bullshit. And even if it comes back, it's going to be bullshit if it happens again. But that's a lot different than being a victim of it. That's a lot different than being angry. It's a whole nother weight off your shoulders to be frustrated instead of angry. And I don't think you get there just by deciding you want to get there. If somebody's told you just to be frustrated or take 5 deep breaths, how'd that work for you? Were they standing there when you got angry again? I think the point's to not get angry. Yeah, there's things in this world that are worth being angry about. Social media, not one of them. The stuff that you're angry about, probably not one of them. The stuff that other people are angry around you are, probably not one of them. You have to raise your system. You have to be in the right mindset. If this is something you need help with, please go to my website, www.theangryvikingtherapist.com. You'll find it at the bottom, or www.avt.help. You can immediately sign up. You can immediately get a download free from me about how to deal with some of this stuff, and you can immediately sign up to talk to me right now. You can go there right now and set up a meeting to talk to me. Let's raise your system. Let's raise your mindset. We can do this together. I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to hold you accountable because I know the person that you can be. Stop being where you are now and creating a victimhood.